It's funny, when you talk about dreams with people, you get some pretty wild answers, right? Like some folks are practically directing their own movies in their sleep every night.
Oh, yeah.
And then there are others who can't even remember if they dreamed at all.
Right, right, exactly.
So we're diving into that whole mystery today. Why do some of us remember our dreams and others, well, not so much?
It's a good question, yeah.
It's a fascinating question, and it's personal, right? It doesn't matter if you're someone who wakes up and analyzes every detail or if you think your brain just takes a complete vacation each night.
Mm-hmm.
This exploration is for everyone, I think.
I think you're absolutely right. And for our listener out there, whether you're the type who grabs a coffee and dissects your dreams, or you're honestly not even sure if you dream at all, we've gone ahead and gathered a bunch of research and different theories all about this.
Yeah.
So we're going to dig into the science, the leading ideas about why it happens, the surprising things that actually affect what we remember from those sleeping hours.
You got it. And we're hoping maybe by the end of this, we'll have a better understanding of why some people remember their dreams and others don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you think about it, dreams are often seen as like this window into our subconscious, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we can understand why we can peek through that window sometimes and not others,
Right.
it could really give us some insights into how our own minds work.
Yeah, totally. And maybe even a few aha moments about our own sleep and memory.
Absolutely. Yeah, so to kick things off, I think we should start with the most basic question. What exactly are dreams, and why do we even have them in the first place?
All right, back to basics. So dreams, when you really get down to it, they're basically mental experiences we have while we're sleeping.
Yeah.
And I think most people listening probably know this, but the most vivid dreams, the ones with stories and characters, those usually happen during REM sleep, rapid eye movement.
That's right.
And what's really interesting is that during that REM stage, our brain activity is really high. It's almost like we're awake.
Yeah, it is.
Which seems to be a big part of why those dreams feel so detailed and why sometimes we can remember them so clearly.
Exactly. And when we start thinking about why we dream, we need to remember there's no one answer everyone agrees on.
Right.
But there are some pretty interesting theories that try to explain it.
Yeah.
One of the main ideas is memory consolidation. This idea that dreams are actually a way for our brains to process and store information and experiences from the day,
Oh, interesting. It's like our brain is filing everything away while we sleep.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, so what are some of the other explanations out there?
Well, another theory is that dreams are a space for problem solving. So in our dreams, we don't have to follow the rules of logic like we do when we're awake.
Uh-huh.
So it might be a way for us to work through problems or try out different possibilities without those limits.
Oh, okay. I like that.
And then there's the emotional regulation theory, which suggests that dreams help us process and deal with our emotions, especially stress. It's like a nightly workout for our feelings.
A workout for our feelings? I've never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
So dreams could be a way to kind of navigate our emotional landscape.
Right, exactly. And then there's a more, maybe a less obvious theory that says dreams might just be random neural activity, just our brains firing off signals while we sleep.
Okay.
So in this view, the stories we experience in our dreams are just our minds trying to make sense of all that random activity.
Interesting. So from potentially really important psychological processes to basically just brain static, there's a lot of possibilities there.
Yeah, there is.
But the question is, if we're all most likely dreaming, why do some people remember those dreams so clearly while others don't remember anything at all?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
And that takes us to the brain itself, what's going on in there that makes some people dream recallers and others not so much.
All right, let's get into those brain specific. We talked about it a bit earlier, but let's zero in on the prefrontal cortex. What's its role in all of this?
Okay, so the prefrontal cortex, like you mentioned, it's super important for like all the higher level thinking we do, memory, decision making, all that. But the thing is, during sleep, even REM sleep, when we're having all those crazy dreams, the prefrontal cortex is actually less active than when we're awake.
Really?
Yeah, and that lower activity is thought to be one reason why we often struggle to remember our dreams. The part of our brain that normally helps us encode and retrieve memories. It's not fully online.
So it's almost like trying to save a file when the computer program isn't fully running?
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Yeah.
And that reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex during REM, it also affects our critical thinking and logic within the dream.
Oh, I see.
Which explains why things can get so bizarre and nonsensical,
Makes sense.
And it also impacts how these experiences get encoded into our long-term memory.
Gotcha. But I've read that people who remember their dreams a lot might have something different going on in that area of the brain.
Yeah, you're right. Some studies have shown that frequent dream recallers seem to have higher activity in their prefrontal cortex even during sleep
Oh.
compared to people who rarely remember their dreams. So if you're listening and you're one of those people who can remember your dreams really well, this might be a clue. Your brain might just have a different activity pattern during sleep that makes it easier for those dream experiences to make it into your conscious memory.
Wow. So it's like their brain is staying a little more on even while they're sleeping, at least when it comes to recording those dream moments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the sleep cycles themselves also play a big role.
You know, we talked about how those vivid dreams usually happen during REM sleep.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
if you happen to wake up during or right after a REM period, you're much more likely to remember what you were dreaming.
Yeah.
It's like you're catching your brain in the act of dreaming.
Yeah.
But if you sleep straight through your REM cycles without waking up at all, those dreams are less likely to stick around in your memory.
That makes a lot of sense to me, actually. I know I'm way more likely to remember a dream if I've woken up for a bit during the night. It's like that little interruption helps bring the dream to the surface.
Exactly. Yeah, even a short wake up can make a big difference. And then there's also brain chemistry to consider.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
neurotransmitters, those chemical messengers that help brain cells talk to each other.
Right.
Well, they seem to be involved in dream recall too.
Okay, so how does that work?
So one of the key players is acetylcholine. It's super important for REM sleep and also just memory formation in general.
Uh-huh.
So the idea is that higher levels of acetylcholine activity might help us hold on to those dream memories better.
So more acetylcholine, more
Yeah.
dream memories we get to keep. That's interesting. What about other neurotransmitters?
Well, norepinephrine is another one. Its levels actually drop during REM sleep compared to when we're awake. Now, we don't know exactly how norepinephrine affects dream recall, but those lower levels could be influencing how dream experiences get encoded in our brains, or maybe even how important our brain think they are.
So it's like this delicate balance of brain chemicals that can either help us remember our dreams or make them fade away.
Yeah, pretty much. And speaking of research, there was a really interesting study back in 2013 where they compared people who remembered their dreams a lot with people who didn't.
What did they find?
Well, they found that the frequent dream recallers had more activity in a specific part of the brain called the temporoparietal junction, or TPJ.
Okay, the TPJ, what does that do?
So the TPJ is involved in things like paying attention and processing information.
Uh-huh.
So what this suggests is that people who remember their dreams a lot might be better at focusing on their dream experiences while they're happening and then processing and storing those experiences in their waking memory.
So it's not just about memory itself, but also about how much attention we're paying to the dream even while we're asleep. That's really cool.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? So we've talked about the brain a lot,
We have.
but what about our mental state, our lifestyle? Do those things affect whether we remember our dreams too?
That's a great question. I mean, it seems like it would, right?
It does, yeah. It's not just about brain activity. Our psychology and our daily habits can really influence dream recall too. So for example, stress and anxiety.
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking about that.
It's really common for people who are stressed or anxious to have more vivid and emotional dreams, which then are easier to remember.
Yeah, that makes sense. Those intense dreams, the ones that feel really weird or even scary, those are the ones that tend to stick with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. While some stress might make dreams more memorable, too much stress can actually mess with our sleep patterns.
Really?
Yeah, and when our sleep is disrupted or we're not sleeping well, it can actually make it harder to remember our dreams.
Oh, wow. So stress can make dreams more intense, but it can also make it harder to remember them.
Yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword there. And then there's sleep quality in general.
That's got to be important, right?
It is. If you're consistently getting good quality sleep, your brain has plenty of time to go through all the different sleep stages, including enough REM sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And that can often lead to better dream recall. But if you have poor sleep or you're sleep deprived or your sleep schedule is all over the place,
Yeah.
you can really mess with those sleep cycles and make it less likely that you'll remember your dreams.
So making sure we get enough good quality sleep is not just good for us overall. It might also help us tap into those nightly stories our brains are creating.
Absolutely. And here's something else to think about. Does our personality, or even just the way we think, affect how well we remember our dreams?
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, we're all different, right? So it would make sense if that played a role.
Right. And research actually suggests that it does.
Really?
Yeah. Studies have shown that people who are more imaginative, more creative, or just more introspective tend to remember their dreams more often.
Huh. So their minds might just be more tuned in to those internal experiences even when they're asleep.
Exactly. And get this, even doing things like keeping a dream journal or just taking time to think about your dreams when you're awake can actually train your brain to notice and remember those dreams better.
Wow. So by actively engaging with the idea of dreams, we're actually making it more likely that we'll remember them. That's fascinating.
It is, isn't it? Now, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about external factors, things like substances and medications. How do those fit into the dream recall puzzle?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm sure some of our listeners are wondering about that.
For sure. So some substances are known to suppress REM sleep, things like alcohol and a lot of sleeping pills.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And since REM is when we have those vivid dreams, it makes sense that those substances would also reduce dream recall.
Right. If you're not getting as much REM sleep, you're not going to have as many dreams to remember.
Exactly. But then there are other substances and medications that have actually been linked to more vivid dreams and better dream recall.
Like what?
Well, melatonin, for example. It's a hormone that helps regulate sleep. And some people find that taking melatonin makes their dreams more intense and easier to remember.
Interesting.
And certain antidepressants have also been linked to more vivid and memorable dreams.
So it sounds like our listeners should definitely pay attention to whether any substances or medications they're taking could be affecting their dream recall.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something to be mindful of for sure. So we've talked about why some people remember their dreams and others don't.
We have.
But for those listeners who are now thinking, hey, I want to remember my dreams more, what can they do about it?
Yeah. Are there any tricks to boost dream recall?
There are some evidence-based techniques that people can try. One of the simplest and most effective is keeping a dream journal.
A dream journal?
Yeah, the key is to make it a habit to write down anything you remember from your dreams as soon as you wake up, even if it's just a quick image, a word, or a feeling. Over time, this can really help your brain get better at holding on to those dream memories.
So it's like we're telling our brains, hey, this dream stuff is important. I want to remember it.
Exactly. And another surprisingly powerful technique is to set an intention before you go to sleep.
An intention?
Yeah. Just consciously tell yourself, I will remember my dreams tonight. It sounds simple, but it can actually increase your chances of recalling your dreams.
I love that it's so easy. Anyone can try it.
Exactly. And here's another tip. When you wake up in the morning, try not to jump right out of bed.
Oh, yeah.
Just lie there for a few minutes and see if you can remember any bits and pieces of your dreams.
Okay.
Sometimes those memories are really fragile and they'll disappear if you don't give them a chance to come back.
That's a great point. It's like taking a mindful pause between sleep and waking life.
Yeah. And of course, good sleep hygiene is super important too.
Right. All the things we know you should be doing anyway.
Exactly. Try to go to bed and wake up around the same time each day. Make sure you're getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Avoid caffeine and alcohol before bed, all that good stuff.
Solid advice. Okay, so we've got the dream journal, the intention setting, the mindful waking up, and good sleep hygiene. Anything else people could try?
Well, if you're feeling really adventurous, you could explore lucid dreaming.
Lucid dreaming.
Yeah, it's basically becoming aware that you're dreaming while you're dreaming.
Wow.
It takes practice, but it can really enhance your dream recall because you're actively participating in your dreams.
That's incredible. So there are definitely things people can do if they want to become more conscious of their dream world.
Definitely. So as we wrap up, let's recap the key things that influence whether we remember our dreams.
Okay, good idea.
So we've got brain activity in certain areas like the prefrontal cortex and the TPJ. When we wake up in relation to our REM cycles, neurotransmitters like acetylcholine, and then all those psychological and lifestyle factors, stress levels, personality, sleep quality, substances, it's a pretty complex mix.
It is. It's amazing how much goes into something as seemingly simple as remembering a dream. And the cool thing is that even if you don't remember your dreams very often, there are things you can do to change that.
Absolutely. And here's a final thought to leave you with, no matter how often you remember them. Dreams are still this incredible and mysterious part of being human.
I like that.
They give us this unique window into our minds, our emotions, our subconscious thoughts.
Yeah.
So even if we don't remember the details, the act of dreaming itself could be really meaningful. What might your subconscious be trying to tell you even if you don't remember the specifics? Or maybe the journey our minds take every night is important in its own way, whether we remember it or not.
That's a beautiful way to think about it. Maybe we should all just appreciate the show our brains put on every night, even if we don't get a program to read in the morning.
Exactly. And for you listening, take a moment to think about your own dream patterns. Do any of the things we talked about resonate with your experience?
That's a great suggestion. It's all part of understanding what makes us well us.
It is.
Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And until next time, keep those brain waves active. You never know what amazing dreams you might have.
Sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams.